Good Groundhog Day morning, everyone. The February 2nd, 2021 special board meeting of the Marion County School Board is called to order. And if anyone believes a rodent can predict the weather, we're in for 6 more weeks of this cold weather. I'd also like to wish happy birthday to my husband, Fred.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Yes. Later in the meeting, up to 30 minutes will be provided for individuals to address the board on matters concerning the operation of the Marion County school system or the school board only. If you wish to address the board regarding a regular agenda item or matters on which the board customarily takes action, you must first complete a peach form located on the table in the hallway. The procedures applicable for each are on a separate sheet. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Mrs. Allison Campbell, District 1.
Here.
Mrs. Beth McCall, District 2.
Here.
Mr. Eric Cummings, District 3.
Present.
Mrs. Nancy Thoreau, District 4.
Here.
Mrs. Kelly King, District 5.
Here.
Dr. Diane Gullett, Superintendent.
Here.
Mr. Jeremy Powers, School Board Attorney.
Here.
I will now read our Marion County School District Leadership Team Commitment Statement. When we come together to work, we are efficient, effective, and productive. Our 3 most important characteristics are dedicated, transparent, and individually responsible. To work well together, we must demonstrate respect, confront reality, and be accountable. We will always put students first. We will leave a legacy of success. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I will now ask the school board's attorney to explain the rules governing persons who wish to address the school board this morning.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In compliance with Section 286.0114 of Florida statutes, the school board has adopted uniform procedures for public speakers who wish to speak at today's meeting, either regarding one of today's agenda items or a matter related to the operations of the school district. These procedures will ensure the public has a reasonable opportunity to be heard on school board and school district matters. A written summary of these procedures is available from the table in the hallway. Public speaker forms are also located on the same table. The completed forms were due to the school board secretary no later than 9:05 a.m. This morning's speakers will be called prior to the business portion of the school board's meeting in order of receipt by the school board's secretary. Before you begin speaking, please state your full name and address for the record and spell your last name. Each speaker will have 5 minutes of time. However, if there are more than 5 persons who wish to speak, the board may seek consensus to limit each speaker's time to 3 minutes. When the speaker has 1 minute remaining, the speaker will receive a visual notice to complete his or her comments. Speakers may not yield their time to other people. Speakers and meeting attendees are expected to conduct themselves in a respectful manner. Therefore, verbal attacks and profanity are strictly prohibited. Pursuant to the procedures for public comment, speakers are not to identify specific individuals other than themselves or their child unless the statement is provided 24 hours in advance. Thank you for your attention to the board's requirements. Chairman, that includes my explanatory remarks.
Thank you, Attorney Powers. Ms. Martinez-Lopez, do we have any speakers this morning?
No, ma'am, not at this time.
Thank you. All right. May I have a motion to approve changes to the Trades and Services Temporary Employee 2021 schedule that received board consensus during January 28th, 2021 work session?
So moved.
Moved by Campbell.
Second.
Second by McCall. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, moving on to board committee reports and concerns. Dr. Gullett.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. I just want to thank you all for the support of our employees. We appreciate and know that you recognize the critical work they do, so just thank you.
Thank you. Attorney Powers?
Nothing from legal. Thank you.
Okay, did we want to talk about this
Yes, if you want to address that now, I would.
as well?
I have provided the board with copies of our semifinal draft letter to Governor Ron DeSantis. And Mr. Christian also has a copy of that. I have incorporated some of the edits that were requested of me. These include the transportation department's challenges that they have faced, and the fact that as we've had an 87% student return, up from 66% in August of 2020, that teachers indeed face increased challenges in social distancing, and that each positive step we take obviously has led to additional challenges. So if there are any further edits, I have the ability now to make them, or if anyone wants to email them to me, I can make them later. The goal being that if I can make the edits now, I can print them and have them ready for the board to sign today. Otherwise, if there are additional edits, I can have board members sign off on those additional edits later in the day.
Any discussion?
I'm fine with the letter. Looks good to me. I'd like to sign it and get it off today.
Yes, that would be my preference as well. I'm looking at the second paragraph, talking about positive cases, and I'm wondering for impact if we should put the cumulative total since the beginning of the school year of how many students have been, haven't been able to attend school. I think that makes an incredible impact. I think last week we had quite a few, and the week before it's been increasing. So I don't know how quickly we could get the cumulative number, but since we started school, a lot of kids have missed out on their education.
We can, and in fact, I spoke with Mr. Christian, who keeps the public records regarding exactly those numbers. And I believe that ultimately one of the issues is that in attempting to show cumulative numbers, we may have some difficulty in identifying the number of absences versus the number of cases. There is some uncertainty when it comes to how we document or how we properly explain this, because we have multiple tests. A student can be tested multiple times, and those tests, the number of tests may show that the statistics are somewhat different as opposed to the number of positives. Same thing when it comes to the number of students that are actually out on quarantine. A student may be quarantined on a number of occasions, but in fact may not have been tested positive. So I think that's something we would need to discuss as far as how those, what numbers I use. So
And how to word it. It
Right.
sounds to me like, and a general statement maybe directly or have been impacted, their education has been impacted by COVID-19. When I look at these numbers, 45 students and 22 employees tested positive for COVID-19 in January, 15th to the 21st. I mean, that's terrible, don't get me wrong. We know it's terrible. We know how impactful it is. But when you look at the cumulative since the start of the year, now those are some big numbers. So
Right,
I'm
and
just putting it out there, and I don't want to delay this letter. Maybe it's not that important, but
no,
that
and
jumped out at me, so I
specifically,
had to say
that was one of the things that was pretty interesting, given my second sentence in that paragraph was that those positive cases, though those may seem relatively low, given our total number of students and employees, it may seem relatively low that we had 45 students and 22 employees tested positive. Those positive cases caused 386 other Marion County Public School students and 53 other employees to be quarantined. So the fact is that even where we don't have further positives, we still, those impact us greatly. And that is one of the things that I discussed with Mr. Christian, given the fact that we may have an increasing, decreasing, or relatively neutral number of actual positives that lead to a very large number of absentees from transportation department, from students, from teachers, due to mandatory quarantine. So I'm just not sure how we want to reflect that. And we can, there's, the statistics are present. I can reflect it any way we want to ensure that we are, accurately reporting what it is that we have and what we're experiencing. And I just need guidance from the board as to how we should go about that.
I agree with Ms. Burrow on this because when you look at 386 cases or 53 cases or whatever, and you match that number up to the number of students in the district and the number of staff that we have in the district, and the state is going to look at it as a percentage. It's going to be a very, very small percentage. It's going to be probably almost 1% or less, and that doesn't tell the story accurately. I don't know how you can pull those numbers together and kind of show some type of cumulative number, but it needs to be, this right here looks almost like we don't really have a problem when we look at it just by looking at a week's time.
Well, what about, because we get the chart every week, what about just adding up the numbers from those charts? Since we started reporting on this day.
If I might add to the discussion, good morning to each of you.
Good morning.
At least it's not snowing here, and we're grateful for that.
Right.
Those weekly reports sometimes contain repeat quarantines.
Right.
So the numbers, if you simply add them together, I'm not comfortable saying that that is a true reflection of the number of students and employees who have been quarantined, because you could be quarantined 3 different times. So you're counted 3 different times, but you're only one person.
Yeah,
Does that make
although
sense?
you're.
So the repetition there, we just have to be careful how we word it,
Yeah.
because you can't say 1,285 students unless
Right.
we know that it's 1,285 individual students.
Can we say the number of quarantines?
Or student absences, because that one student was absent that many.
How many times? 21 days if it was 3, whatever it was. So the number of
Yeah, it's
quarantines
just-
versus the number.
How we
of-
word it, I just,
I
taking
agree.
the numbers by themselves, you just have to be really careful with that.
Right.
So that's what I would add.
What I do agree with is providing the cumulative number of students that have tested positive over the course of this school year, as well as employees that have tested positive over this school year, because that's hundreds of people that I do believe those cumulative numbers would show a better picture of at least understanding exactly how many people we've already had impacted by it. And then if we're able to figure out the student absences, cumulative student and/or employee absences as a result.
Anybody else? Because knowing how quickly these are read, I think that it is important to keep it to one page. Yeah, normally it would make sense to attach our charts and so on, but we have to remember how quickly this is going to be read. And so we need to make, if we haven't made a big impact by the second paragraph.
It's
And I also wonder if we even need to include the total number of those in our district. So we have, of our 41,000 students, this number has, of our 7,000, this number, just because, I mean, he has 63 is he going to know Marion County numbers right off the bat? But that's just a question.
Right. Of our 41,000 students, blank have been directly impacted at least once by COVID-19. Something to where we're acknowledging the repeaters. But the repeaters have still missed their education 3 or 4 different times. So it's all in how we
Have an answer for how we,
how we would word it. But if we can simply provide a number that shows the impact without being so specific that it looks like we're saying we've counted every single case, we've counted every single impact. But I like what you were saying, Board Member Campbell, about of the 41,000 students, blank have been either positives or directly impact via multiple exclusions,
That's exactly right. One of the
single or
things
multiple
while I was
exclusions.
preparing the letter, that I found to be relevant is that the number of positive cases is somewhat different than the number of students who have been directly impacted.
Correct.
Because a student may never have tested positive, yet 3 times may have had a 14-day exclusion or more.
We have had that from.
Yes.
We absolutely have.
Yes.
And so therefore, that is something that we probably need to reflect if we're going to do so in this letter. And I just would seek the board's guidance as to how best to reflect it.
Right. Right. What are your thoughts, Dr. Gullett?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. I'm thinking about impact as well. I'm thinking about the instances or the cases of quarantine because we think about students and employees missing, right? So when we have teachers missing and drivers missing, there's an impact to the learning environment. So I think the instances of impact of whether we want to call them cases of quarantining tells the story. The positivity doesn't tell the story as much, I agree with Attorney Powers, as the impact of those not being able to be in the learning environment or to conduct and be present for their business.
So what we may want to say is we may want to talk about the number that actually tested positive for COVID. However, this number were quarantined, therefore the student impact or something, so that
Total number of days missed or something. I don't know if that's a
I don't know,
rubric we
days
track.
missed or students that were
Students
that
and
were
employees
impacted because of contact tracing and had to be quarantined. I think, that's as much a educational impact as the student with
Right.
that tests positive.
Kind of sounds like if you kind of put a parenthesis, excluded, quarantine, or whatever, that you can kind of encapsulate all of those into one and have a separate one for those who have been positive, who are staff and students, that may cover without fluctuating, without blowing up the number.
Because
and
I
making
think
it
it's
seem-
important that they understand, they're talking about those that are positive, but I think it's real important that Tallahassee understand the impact, the total impact on those students that have had to miss class because of quarantine. I don't think, I'm not sure that picture's being painted as much as those that are tested positive. So I think those numbers are important.
And the positivity is, relatively low, which speaks to the great job that everyone has been, breaking their backs trying to do. However, the ripple effect of even just a few positives and how that affects our network and our school community is the big picture.
And so my question would be, for the purposes of the letter, what is the total, what am I looking for? Is it total number of days missed? Is it total number of student days out? Is it total number of,
Do we have the number of students that have been quarantined, the total number of students that have been quarantined? So I would use that number, and that some of those numbers are the same, word it so that, I think that's the total number quarantined, regardless if they've been quarantined once or twice.
Yes, the total number of quarantines, not the total number of student quarantines. We could do the
So
total,
could you
But
say-
that some of those, we may want to word it in there, some of those are same student, multiple
Right.
quarantines.
Could you say the total number of those quarantined, and of those who were quarantined, this many were positive? You can't say that?
I would totally separate those positive numbers from those
Yeah, I'm
students
saying,
that are
yeah,
quarantined.
if you got 3,000 kids were quarantined because of this pandemic. However, out of those 3,000, we know how many specifically were positive.
right.
If I may, Madam Chair, thank you. To your point, Board Member McCall, we have in that chart the total direct contacts quarantine, and that's divided, of course, by the students, employees. So if we have a cumulative number there, that impacts the working and learning environment, right?
I think that
That is the number that we have captured. The direct contacts, and those who are quarantined, has an impact. That tells there were 772 this last one, and then we divided by students and employees. That's something we've been calculating.
Okay.
That's quite an impactful story.
That's impactful.
Yes, right. And we can provide that information through that, because that impacts those who regardless who they are around, who can come to school and learn and who can come and do their work in
What
there.
else did you say, Mr. McVillanueva?
Morning.
We also have the V code. So for each student that misses a day of school because of COVID, the school marks them with a V code. So what we can do, I believe we can also find the number of students that have a V code associated with their name, and then also add up all of the V codes that we had throughout the course of the year. So we can have X number of students with the X number of total days that have been impacted just by going through that one code.
That's the student absences.
Right.
Right.
So we don't want to make this too complicated. We want, I think that what we need to do is show the impact, but not make it so complicated that they're going, well, what does this even mean?
Right.
You know, we have to think like them and not like,
We have about 3 seconds.
yeah.
They have a lot coming across their desks, so we want the numbers to be very, very
So I think that
direct.
impact number and the COVID positive number are the two numbers, and the impact number being those that have been quarantined because of close contact.
And do we combine the numbers just for the sake of ease and say students and employees, this total, instead of saying this number of students and this number of
Right.
employees?
Right, I was just thinking that, yeah. Because we definitely, our employees are definitely part of this, and at this point, we're all being affected, so we're all in the same group in a lot of ways.
For what period of time? Yeah. Okay, so when I make my request, that request is going to end up being directed at Mr. Christian. I just want to make sure that he's clear on what it is that I need to actually request of him in order to accurately reflect what the board's direction is here. So we're looking for, as Ms. McCall indicated, an impact number, a COVID positive number, 2 different numbers.
Because COVID.
So total COVID positives
And then quarantine.
since
This
the inception of
August.
Day one.
Since August,
Since
August.
since we started back into school.
Yep.
Okay, so total positives since August.
Well, we would want to start with the teachers coming back, because remember, they started back 2 weeks early, so,
That's August, isn't it?
That's
Wasn't it August 1st?
Still August.
right.
Okay.
But I didn't mean like the first day of school, okay.
And then in addition to total positives since August, we want
Number of impact.
total number of impacts. Is that by days or is that because each student or teacher who has been quarantined is
Cases.
Cases.
So what we
number
have
of
here-
cases, not
total
days?
positive cases, and the
Yes.
first box that you used, I know you can't see it
Yeah.
from here.
Right.
This is,
Right.
you
And then the
received this.
quarantine.
And then the second box was total direct contacts quarantine. Those tell the
I mean,
story.
those are the
Yep.
numbers we use on our
Those are-
charts, so we
Yep.
might as well
Boom,
use
boom,
the
and-
same thing.
Yes, and that's been very user-friendly, so
Yeah.
thank you very much for that.
Absolutely.
All right.
And I can take no credit for that. That's all Mr. Christian. He's done an incredible job there.
I'm going to step up because those numbers are provided to me Friday afternoon from Miss Oliver's office.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Rose Cohen and whoever's working behind the scenes there. We're just going to have to be careful, Mr. Powers, in how we word this, because taking those 2 numbers is the easiest and probably most accurate way to get to what you want. But we have to present it in a way that it's the total cases. It's not the number of students and the number of employees.
Right. Total cases.
We just have to remember that when
That's what we-
writing the letter.
So let's, but yeah.
Okay.
And Mr. Christian, if you have some time available after our meeting, I'll review that with you and we can come up with that.
So it's 2 areas we're looking at. Total number of positive cases combined, students and staff, and then the total number of cases that have been caused the impact or quarantine.
Total direct contact
Total direct
quarantine.
quarantine.
Yep.
Just use that wording, that's what it's.
Yep, total direct
Yes.
contact.
You just use the wording that we have in
Quite a
our,
bit of time with the language and with Department of Health to
Right.
make sure it was accurate
right.
in putting this.
So if we use that language, then we're consistent with what we're doing, what we're saying.
Yep.
And the language we're talking about is total number of positive cases and total number of quarantine cases.
Nope, use
No.
the same language.
Okay.
Contact
Board wants
quarantine.
to use this. That's what we
Okay.
share each week.
Total positive cases and total direct contacts quarantined.
There you go.
Yeah. You bet. All right. Well, that was spirited. Thank you, everybody.
But it paints the picture that we need to paint.
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it just goes to show you how this affects, the effect just ripples down. Look how much work is going into providing these numbers, on a weekly basis. This is pretty much occupied almost everything from top to bottom. It's amazing that this district has done as well as it has under these conditions and has stayed open. I continue to hear stories from districts up north and other districts even closer to us. And the kids are not able to be in school 5 days a week. And the fact that we're doing that is a testament to everyone's courage and hard work. So thank you very much.
I will work, Board Chair, on total quarantine cases and total positive and total direct contacts quarantined since August. I'll communicate with Mr. Christian thereafter. Otherwise, I would just ask whether the content of the letter meets with general board approval. I'll insert the numbers of those as I get them, and then I'll email the board later today to indicate, I'll email a copy of our proposed letter and have everyone come by and sign if it's acceptable. Is that appropriate?
Question with that. Is there a way that we can have an electronic signature on that so that we don't have to, for stuff like that?
Can we send you a JPEG of our signature?
Yeah, I think
and
so.
Put it in there?
I think we can make that happen.
Because I know once we leave here, and this.
Oh, I
needs to get out
understand.
As soon as possible.
Yep. Anyway, if we can use technology to expedite it, let's do it.
I'll do so.
Okay. So you need a picture of our signature?
No, I don't think so. I think that I can, there's some guidance as to electronic signatures where I can put the /s and your signature without
Okay.
having an actual JPEG.
Right.
Okay, great. Yeah, and that's why we're having this meeting today, because there has been such an impact. We're having a special meeting because of the impact of COVID-19. So we definitely want to make sure that we convey that, and it sounds like we will now, so that's great. Thank you so much.
And thanks
to all of you.
everyone for working with me on this. It's been a lot to process, so
Right,
I appreciate it.
That's a very important letter, and we just want to have it right. I think we do now. Okay, Ms. Martinez Lopez.
Good, thank you.
All right, Ms. King.
Good, thank you.
Call.
I just wanted to mention, I don't know if all of you are aware of the governor's budget. I hope that you are. He did education a favor by increasing the base student allocation. He also put $110 million in for mental health for schools, but the governor's budget is truly a wish list, so it's positive in our favor, but we're being told that it's a long way from reality. So so just stay tuned, and I'll keep you all posted as I am updated.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McCall, for mentioning that, because as soon as the governor's keyword proposed budget went out, I started getting contact from people saying, so y'all screwed us on the raise. No, we didn't.
So
It's proposed.
Yeah, the governor's budget is always the wish list budget. What it tells the legislators is what his priorities are, but the legislators actually set the budget. So I like that he put in there an increase in required local effort for us. So we are really kind of pushing towards that as well. But stay tuned, because it's a long way from the finish line, and it's actually just starting. So, but the positive thing about it is that he really had, especially K through 12 education, as a highlight for him. So that's positive, but we are a long way from the finish line.
Yeah. Yes, Ms. King, go ahead.
Well, when you're done talking about this, I thought.
Oh, you have one more thing?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's it. Just stay tuned.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll keep you informed.
And I will say that it is a great signal from the governor. I was very hopeful that when our beginning teachers got so comparatively well taken care of, that then it only would make sense to follow that for our veteran teachers, to increase that spread, to acknowledge their years of experience and how much they do to help beginning teachers come up the curve and hopefully stay so we can retain them. So to me, this falls in line with what we were hoping and expecting. We'll see if it actually happens. We've had a lot to deal with here, and I think it's very important to always remind people that they're the citizens of Marion County and their taxes, there's the school district and what we do with that money, and then there's the state and what they allow us, and then there's the federal government. And in this situation especially, everybody's got to step up. So it's my prayer that that money comes through and we can acknowledge our veteran teachers with a raise that isn't a slap in the face. And if so, I'll just leave that right there for today. All right, Mr. Cummings.
Other than this Saturday, there's going to be a prayer breakfast at the Immerse Church on North 441, Pastor Tuggerson, and it's recognizing the bus drivers and bus aides. I specifically asked him, I was like, did you forget about the aides? He was like, we just didn't put on the flyer, but it's also to include the bus drivers and bus aides. Ms. Campbell is going to be Board Member Campbell is going to be one of the speakers that morning. So I think there's going to be other board members there. So I did want to put on notice that some of us would be there, and because I'll be one of the servers there.
What's the location, Reverend Cummings?
Immerse Church, North 441. Used to be PFGC, Pentecostal Full Gospel
Gospel
Church.
worship.
Right
It's easier to
near
remember.
the Harley Davidson.
Right by the Harley
worship.
Davidson.
Right.
Right, north of the Harley Davidson.
Yeah.
South of the Hurley.
South. I think it's
8 a.m.,
yeah,
I believe.
it's a prayer breakfast, but they do want to recognize all of our
Well,
transportation.
it's the ladies' prayer event, so it's specifically for the female bus drivers and bus aides, just because it is their ladies' event. But I believe the men are coming to serve. So I'm not certain how they're working all that out, but.
Well, I mentioned it to him. I said, did you forget we got male bus drivers as well? And male bus.
I think Lady P's taking charge of this one. Maybe it'll be for Pastor Tuggerson to take on the men's side.
He had to step up, so he told him to come too. So
Oh, okay, good
yeah,
deal.
come on,
Good deal.
because we appreciate what transportation does
Absolutely.
over and over and over and over again every day. So so we'll be there. I just wanted to be on the record for that.
Right.
And I will point out that in our letter, one of the things that one of my edits was that we specifically included some of the transportation numbers, because the board emphasis seemed to be, from our last discussion, the fact that we had some significant transportation impacts, and that may not be something that other districts are emphasizing, is the great need and the great impact that we've had with transportation due to COVID-19. So thank you, board, for giving me that direction, because I believe it added to the overall quality of our communication with the governor.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. I'm good.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Campbell.
That was what I was going to mention about the Immerse Church event this weekend. So that's all for me.
Okay, great.
Ms. King had something.
Yes.
Oh, I was just, because Pastor Cummings mentioned the pay raises for the teachers, that made me think about it. And there seems to be a lot of discussion about the money when they're going to receive their raises. So I was just going to share that, and I know as a board, I'm pretty sure that we all have been shared that the DOE they're the ones that give Marion County School District the funds to be able to pay this. So it's not that we're sitting on this money as a district and waiting to pay our teachers. So we have been informed that the DOE has approved our plan and that we should receive the money in February this month, but then it will take a couple weeks after that. So the money is not here yet. It is coming, and when it is here, I know the finance department, they're going to do their best to get those checks out. So I think there's just a lot of discussion and wondering. So I think it's good that we communicate that it is coming. And also, I back what Ms. Thrower said, or Chair Thrower said, about revisiting the raises next year. Last year, I committed to revisiting it. I will revisit it. I know as a board we will revisit it, but we needed to have all of our information. And last year we did not have all the information, and it still is changing, as Ms. McCall said, and that's all I have for today. I'm sorry.
Oh, not at all. It was great clarifying, and you really defined what's been on all of our minds. I think all of us have gotten those letters and outreach, and I know from my years in the school system that we would, get approved for a raise, and then it would take a while, and then it would be retroactive, so you get this nice check, and it's like, yay, finally. So it is coming. I'm grateful that our finance department stays true to their word. They don't sit on things. When the money's here, we will get it. And to me, it's pretty amazing how fast they're able to turn that around for, a few thousand employees, because it's not just teachers, right, that are getting raises. It's going across. So we're all looking forward to that. So thank you very much, Vice Chair King.
One more thing, Chair. Because I just want everybody to be clear where we are, what we did today about this with the transportation department, because we've gotten calls, I've gotten calls about what's going on with transportation. So, and one of the things I told some of the people that I've talked to is that we are aware of the issues with what was going on with transportation. We became aware of it last week, or some of it we kind of knew, and we're working on it, but this is not going to be an overnight fix, that we have to have time to get folk trained and get them behind the steering wheels. So to be patient, but we're trying to get this thing together. And so know that we are on it. We're not just letting it go down the road. And that Ms. Rohr and her department is working hard to get their kids to school on time and to get them home on time. But just because of the decision that we did this morning, that it's not going to all of a sudden in the morning everything be fixed that fast. It's a move in the right direction, so please be patient with us.
So perhaps Dr. Gullett can, or Ms. Rohr can just say exactly what we did today, how it will impact, what is it that we did today, so the public knows for sure.
Go ahead.
And how it will help us
Super.
with getting kids to school.
Good morning, and thank you. So what the board did for us today is approve the increase of the wages for the temporary to $15.35. What that would allow us to do is to fill the gaps of those vacant routes, those routes that have no driver because they have left the districts. It will also help us fill the gaps of the long-term absences, such as FMLA and district leaves. Those are long-term absences. And other vacant areas are the quarantines, those drivers who are out as it relates to COVID, be it positive or direct contact quarantine. So this is where we're going to fill those gaps until we get the full-time employees on board or until you return from your quarantine status. And we greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rohr.
Thank you.
Yes,
And
thank you, Ms.
If I
Rohr.
may, thank you, Madam Chair. To Board Member Cummings and Board Member McCall, we are also working on all of those other possible solutions. We know that this is not the only solution, so we will and are continuing. And I know, Ms. Rohr, we had some conversation with our team yesterday and bringing this information back to you when we have some of those other solutions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Yes, because we talked about a lot of different options and what can we do immediately, which is why we had this special meeting today. So it's a great step forward. And yes, we sit up here and we spotlight issues as they come to us. And I think this board has been incredibly proactive in getting out there and trying to be helpful. And then we, by necessity, have to move on to other things. But the folks that are tasked with the logistics and the details then get to work because they've gotten our approval on things. That's what we do. And then things start to click. So it's definitely a network. It's definitely a process. And the more we help the community and everyone be aware of how this works, I think that it'll make it easier for them to understand everyone's role in this. A lot of folks are confused by the fact that if you worked in the school system before you came on the school board, you have to take a leave of absence. And I've always talked about how I just think it would be cool to be a bus driver. I have so much respect for them. And then I thought about maybe I would go out that way my last year or so. But right now I can't do that. I could drive for Citrus County or Levy County, but that wouldn't help Marion County. And same with the rest of you. It's considered a conflict of interest, right, Attorney Powers? So
You don't want me driving a bus.
I won't ask why. But we all have ways that we can be helpful, and I know that we want the community to think that we are being helpful and doing all we can. It's truly a heavy lift and a big effort and a little messy sometimes, but we're all for it. So those are my comments for today. Is there anything else for the good of the cause? All right. Well, then, there being no further business, may I have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Cummings, second by King. That's what it says here because it's a school board meeting. I know, it feels like a work session. The meeting is adjourned at 9:41 a.m. Thank you very much.